The wind that evening rolled over the red earth of Arizona Territory, slow and heavy, like a sigh from the mountains. The sun was sinking low, bleeding gold and crimson into the dry horizon. Luke Marston stood outside his small wooden cabin, staring at the land he'd fought to keep. His crops were thin, his cattle fewer still, and his hope nearly gone. The only sound was the soft creak of the windmill turning against the dying light. Then, he heard hooves. 3 Apache riders approached from the ridge, dust swirling around them. They stopped a few yards away, faces unreadable, eyes sharp as obsidian. Their leader dismounted, a tall man wrapped in deerskin, his expression hard. Behind him sat a young woman on a tired bay horse, her hands bound, her head bowed. The leader spoke first. "This woman," he said flatly, "has broken the law of her people. For her disobedience, she shall live among your kind, as punishment." Luke's brow furrowed. "What did she do?" he asked quietly. "She refused to marry the warrior chosen for her," the man replied, voice like dry stone. "She spoke of her own will. Such pride cannot stay among us." He turned to the woman. "From this night, you belong to this man." Luke stepped back, stunned. "Now hold on," he said sharply, "I didn't ask for this. I can barely feed myself." The Apache leader's eyes met his. "She is yours now. What you do with her is your burden or your blessing." And just like that, they rode off into the red dust, leaving Luke alone with the silent woman in the fading light. That night, neither spoke much. Luke untied her hands, gave her a plate of beans and cornbread, and pointed to a corner near the stove. She ate quietly, her dark eyes flicking toward him now and then, measuring, studying. When he finally broke the silence, his voice was soft, unsure. "You got a name?" "Taya," she answered, her tone gentle but firm. Luke nodded slowly. "Well, Taya. Ain't much of a place, but you're welcome to stay till we figure something better." She didn't reply, only lowered her gaze and whispered something in Apache, a prayer, maybe, or a farewell to the life she'd lost. Days turned to weeks. Luke worked his fields from sunrise to dusk, and Taya followed silently, learning the rhythms of his land. She patched the holes in his roof, mended his shirts, and cooked with a quiet grace that softened the rough edges of his days. Sometimes, he'd catch her humming while grinding corn, her voice low and melodic, like the wind singing through canyon walls. One evening, as they shared supper by the fire, Luke spoke again. "You ever think 'bout goin' back?" She looked into the flames before answering. "There is nothing left for me there," said softly. "A woman who disobeys loses her name among her people." "I am no one." Luke set his fork down, his heart tightening. "Ain't nobody no one," he murmured. "You're here. You got a name. You got a place." Taya smiled faintly. "And what place is that?" He met her eyes, the firelight flickering between them. "Right here," he said simply. Spring came late that year, but when it came like mercy. The rains returned, soaking the cracked earth. Crops grew tall. And in that gentle change, something else began to bloom, something wordless and tender. Luke started laughing again, little things at first. The way she scolded the chickens. The way she'd roll her eyes when he forgot to wash his hands. Taya, too, began to soften. She'd leave flowers on the table, hum songs as the sun went down. Sometimes, when he came home covered in dust, she'd hand him water and say, with quiet warmth, "The land listens when you're kind to it." And Luke would smile. "Reckon it listens to you more than me." One night, under a clear blanket of stars, Luke sat on the porch with his guitar, playing softly. The melody drifted over the fields like a memory. Taya stepped out, arms folded against the chill. "That song," she whispered. "It sounds sad." He nodded. "It's called Home Across the Valley. My pa used to play it. Said it was about finding peace where you least expect it." Taya's gaze lifted to the sky. "Maybe peace finds you when you stop running." Luke looked at her for a long moment. Then, setting his guitar aside, he said gently, "You ever stop running, Taya?" She turned toward him, her eyes shining in the moonlight. "Maybe tonight," she whispered tenderly. By the time summer came, the valley had changed, so had they. Neighbors started noticing the difference. Luke's land grew greener, his herd stronger. And when folks passed by, they'd see Taya out by the fence, her hair shining like black silk in the sun, her laughter mingling with his. No one called her a punishment anymore. One evening, as thunder rolled far off in the hills, Luke came in from the field, soaked to the bone. He found Taya at the stove, her hands busy, her face warm in the glow of the fire. He watched her for a moment, then said softly, "Taya, this cabin used to be quiet. Just wood and wind. But now—" She turned, smiling. Now it feels alive," he said with quiet emotion, like it finally became what it was always meant to be. She looked at him, eyes glistening. "What's that?" He stepped closer, taking her hands gently. "Home." Taya's breath caught, and then she smiled through tears. "Then it's my home too." Years later, travelers passing through the valley would speak of the place with awe. They'd say, "There's a little farm east of the mesa, where the fields never die and the wind sings soft." They'd say, "There lives a farmer and his Apache wife, she once came as punishment, but together, they turned hardship into love." And if you passed by near sunset, you might see them still, Luke and Taya, standing side by side in the fading gold light, his arm around her shoulder, her head resting near his heart. The land around them blooming with life, and the wind whispering softly, like a blessing. Home.